It's not just Vaush actually that called out TYT for their recent take on the F-16s to Ukraine. Pretty much their entire audience was pissed off by their commentary here. A lot of people saying things like, "Are you guys taking Russian money? What happened to TYT? What is this pro-Putin tanky BS?" These are the worst Ukraine takes I've ever heard. Holy Jesus. Jesus Christ, guys, this was so bad. Maybe please do better research and bring experts in on topics you're not familiar with. You're doing right-wing talking points. Absolute and utter clown college take. Clowns. I'm here for the comment section. Used to be a viewer, even used to subscribe to this channel. LOL. Anyway, with love from Vaush. So it seems like Vaush probably sent some of these people.
They definitely got raided by the Vaushite.
Yeah, for sure. Although there's a point in Vaush's stream where he looks at the comments too, and they're already pretty negative. And that was before he put out his video on the subject. So it does seem like because of the audience that TYT's built up, they happen to be pretty resistant to the line of logic that Cenk and Anna present on the subject matter, which, like I said, for the most part, with a few exceptions, I think is pretty reasonable. I don't agree with everything they say in the video. Obviously, we'll interject and let you guys know where we disagree. But I think that I'm far more on Cenk and Anna's page when it comes to this specific subject than Vaush, who titled this video Anna and Cenk's awful pro-Russia takes. I didn't hear them say anything pro-Russian in this video. Let me know if you hear anything, Zach. But I thought what they were saying was pretty reasonable, which, again, I very rarely give TYT credit. Usually when we talk about TYT, it's to dunk on them, to roast them. But this time I thought they were, for the most part, pretty reasonable. I'm interested in your reaction, Zach.
Biden has informed the G7 allies here that the United States has agreed to allow Ukrainian pilots to begin training to fly American-made F-16 fighter jets. This move represents a major reversal for Biden and a wish fulfilled for Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, who has pleaded for F-16s for months.
Oh, goody, an escalation of war. Now, in this case...
oh. Wow, that's pretty overt. Right off the bat.
It's literally just what it is. It's an escalation of war. Even if you agree with what Biden did, even if you're 100% like pro-rah-rah, pro-Ukraine, I want them to get all the weapons they want. Let's put boots on the ground. However far you go, I think it's pretty hard to deny that sending F-16 to Ukraine is an escalation of war. Like, yeah, obviously it is.
As you heard in that report, the Biden administration will now allow our European allies to transfer American-made F-16s to Ukraine, something that was considered a red line by the Biden administration previously, especially when we're dealing with another nuclear power, Russia. And of course, Vladimir Putin has responded to this by threatening nuclear war with the United States.
Okay, to be fair, he's been doing that like every Tuesday for the past 9 years. So
is unsurprising. It's not the first time he's done it, but maybe sending offensive weaponry.
I like how he comes in to try and correct her, and then she immediately just concedes the point that he had as his first gotcha. But anyway,
to Ukraine, not the best idea.
I don't like this. Is a made-up term. Weaponry is always offensive. I don't like this. What does that mean? Whether or not a weapon is offensive or defensive is in how it's used. It's like when China complained
Vaush is literally about to make our point for us. Yes, Vaush, good boy.
We're sending them offensive weapons in Taiwan, like some specific type of weapon that could magically be used in an offensive capacity, which is, of course, all weapons. That's how they work, with the exception of, I don't know, Israel's the Iron Dome. I mean, maybe there are a couple of weapons that can only be used defensively, but obviously that's that's the not the norm.
And there is no end in sight for this war. In fact, the idea...
I just have to add that because all of those weapons are offensive, that's why it's an escalation, Vaush.
The idea of sending F-16s to Ukraine makes it abundantly clear that the United States and its allies intend to continue engaging in this war for at least 18 months.
We're not engaging in the war. We're providing resources to Ukraine engaging in the war. I think we could stand to be a little bit more careful with our language on this one, considering the fact that implying that we're engaged in it is suggesting that we're at war with Russia, which we are definitionally not. Neither country acknowledges this as a war between either of us.
Possibly more, because there's some...
That's why we all, in our analysis, refer to this as a proxy war. But go on, Vaush.
training necessary in order to ensure that members of Ukraine's military are able to operate F-16s.
Not 18 months of training, though. I mean, I'm sure it takes a while to learn how to fly a new kind of jet, but I don't think the trained fighter pilot, I don't think they would need 18 months to train on that. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of these pilots have actually been getting trained in F-16s already, that Ukraine sent out air servicemen to get training in other countries so that if Ukraine ever did receive these planes, they would know how to use them when they arrive. They've done that with other vehicles, I believe. So it would make sense they've been consistent in that.
We'll get to all those details in just a moment. Now, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has been asking for F-16 since the beginning of this war, and the United States, under Biden's leadership, had refused to do so. They saw it as an escalation of war. The next video has some more details on this.
The F-16, the backbone of the U.S. air fleet, can travel twice the speed of sound, drop bombs on ground targets, and fire air-to-air missiles. Ukraine believes these planes provide a distinct advantage in the skies, enabling them to shoot down incoming cruise missiles and fighter jets, fending off Russia's punishing air assaults. But up till now, providing F-16s has been a red line for President Biden.
Well, they are pretty expensive. I mean, we can afford it. It's not going to bankrupt us. We've got plenty of Pentagon money and munitions to spare. But yeah, they're pretty expensive.
Reluctant to provoke an unpredictable escalation from Russia. Still, in a February interview with David, Biden did leave the door open just a crack.
We know President Zelensky continues to say what he really needs are F-16s. Will you send F-16s?
Look, we're sending him what our seasoned military thinks he needs now.
You don't think he needs F-16s now?
No, he doesn't need F-16s now.
That was what he said in February, but clearly he has now changed his tune. Now, for the moment being, there's no indication that the United States is going to transfer its F-16s to Ukraine. It's just that our allies will be doing so. But let's keep it real. Eventually, the United States will be doing so as well, because it's an opportunity for, we know what it's an opportunity for. Send them more weapons.
Making monies, making monies.
Need for the United States to replenish its weaponry. And that means more money for the defense contractors who are absolutely salaried.
Okay,
I like how Vaush completely forgets his fucking critique of the military-industrial complex whenever it's convenient for him to on the subject of Ukraine. Not to chime in too much, but Jesus Christ, dude, it's like, okay, yeah, Anna is making a very astute providing a pretty astute analysis here. It's like, this is what's going to happen. We know that's what's going to happen. I haven't disagreed with a single thing she said the entire time. And I also think it's pretty fucking difficult to take fucking Russiagating Anna Kasparian and the TYT network and put them in the vote as like pro-Putin apologists. That just shows that you have absolutely nowhere to go, that you are forced to be disingenuous.
Means more money for the defense contractors who are absolutely salaried.
Okay, here's a quick question out of curiosity, all right? Very much out of curiosity, okay? If the defense contractors need us to supply munitions and vehicles to Ukraine to justify us spending more money on buying them back from them, why has our defense budget continued to rise and rise and rise without any meaningful war? I mean, for decades now, sure, we had Iraq and we had Afghanistan, but after those petered out, like
without any meaningful war, our occupation of Afghanistan just ended. We just pulled out of Afghanistan conveniently right when the war in Ukraine started, and all of a sudden, all of that defense contractor money got funneled into a different conflict in a different part of the world. But to act like the US empire has been dormant for the last 20 years is ridiculous. I mean, think about all of our fucking military bases all around the world. Think about all of our military.
We're still in Iraq.
We're still in Iraq. Exactly.
We're all over Africa.
Budget has continued to rise for military spending absent any new threat. The idea that the only reason we could be spending money on Ukraine is to enrich our defense contractors is unironically right-wing propaganda. Follow-up question. If that is the case, then why are the far-right people who are totally in favor?
I'm sorry. Does this dude think we do anything in this world out of fucking virtue? I got a bridge to sell you. This is fucking ridiculous, okay? This is chess, not checkers, Vaush. Okay, they're only doing this for their financial interest. Do you think that we are humanitarian? Hold on. Does Vaush actually think he doesn't? So let's just see. He's willfully misleading you here. But he's presenting this like this is like some sort of an altruistic effort from the United States. Even when we accidentally do the right thing, like destroy the Nazis, it's because we're angling and we don't want to lose our global footing. Okay, that's what we're doing here. And you can be like, I'm glad that our global footing rests on the liberation liberation of the people of Ukraine, because I support our role in the liberation of Ukraine. And I know that's the only reason that the United States are doing this thing accidentally, which is what I agree with. But you cannot fucking argue. You cannot argue. I will show you 100 examples from the last decade of us acting only in our own just explicitly selfish interests all over the globe. You cannot convince me that we decided in Ukraine, that's where we're drawing a hard fucking line. That's where it's got all the marbles, guys. And it just happens to be with another nuclear superpower that we've had a fucking like reheated Cold War with, or reinvigorate. That's a weird way to phrase it, but you guys know what I'm talking about. And now, we're fighting, we're trying to reestablish ourselves again, not just with Russia, because of the, natural gas and resources that we want in Ukraine, and also how we consider that like a hard line as like an expansion in Europe, because the United States definitely needs to feel like it owns Europe. Okay, that's a big threat to us. And then on top of that, it's going to make a lot of fucking military contractors rich.
Follow-up question. If that is the case, then why are the far-right people who are totally in favor of more military spending opposing backing Ukraine? Why are people on the Republican side, the MAGA crowd, anti-Ukraine, anti-giving them money and resources, even as they're pro-enriching our defense budget? Maybe there's a disconnect here. Maybe there's something else going on, some kind of ideological position conflict.
Over this war that is now quickly becoming an endless war. And I'll explain more of that in just a moment. But Cenk, I wanted to give you an opportunity to jump in.
Yeah. So guys, the administration is partly worried about it because it's an escalation. I would say that's the minority concern. They're not really talking about the majority concern, which they mentioned in some articles, but they mentioned it in passing as if it's the smaller concern. I don't think so at all, for reasons I'll explain here. The larger concern is they don't want the technology to fall into the wrong hands, mainly the Russian hands. Because it's one thing for the Ukrainians to have an F-16.
Big fan of Russian propaganda over here. Cenk Uygur, big Russian propagandist, #1 Russian propaganda. Look at this shit. I mean, this is crazy, because even he doesn't want this to happen. And he goes back to like Cold War rhetoric. It's like, we got to keep that shit away from the Ruskies, bro. Those damn Soviets get a hold of our technology. Who knows what the fuck they're going to do with it?
In area controlled by Russia, where they could then.
I'm so sorry. I must have missed that. I was looking at chat.
Smaller concern. I don't think so at all, for reasons I'll explain here. The larger concern is they don't want the technology to fall into the wrong hands.
F-16 original date first flew in 1976. I don't think that's much of a concern. This isn't like classified, I'm pretty sure.
Mainly the Russian hands, because it's one thing for the Ukrainians to have an F-16. It's another thing for an F-16 to get shot down in area controlled by Russia, where they could then just take the F-16 and reverse engineer it, right? And so now you might think, well, okay, that's a real national security issue for us, because F-16s are excellent, and it's a rare thing we do right in the US military in terms of technology. And so that could be a national security problem for us. Yeah, maybe that's a little bit of a concern too.
It's not secret technology. It's not hidden.
The larger concern is the people that sell that.
And to be fair to Vaush and maybe just Binia, I'm not sure if that's what you were referencing. I don't know about what Cenk is saying there about like if the Russians found a downed F-16 and then somehow reverse engineered it and started making their own. Like, I don't know about that. I'm not sure if that's a legitimate argument or not. What do you think, Zach?
No, that's what I was just trolling him for, about like about how this was like basically just like steeped in like Cold War talking points. Like, no, this is if this is what you guys were talking about, then this is where Cenk is losing me, because it's like I just think it's hilarious that this guy who is immediately going back, we can't let this technology fall into the wrong hands. Okay, over there, we don't know what those people are capable of if they get their hands on good American weapons. That's classic like Cold War, like fear mongering, like Midwestern dad logic. Okay. So yeah, okay. If that was what you were talking about, just Beanie, I'll retract like a little bit of the fervor with which I disagreed with you, because yeah, that was not a good look. But I do think it makes it harder to call them fucking Russian propagandists now, because he's literally just revealed himself to be absolutely the opposite of.
Right. Eric does point out that there is brand new tech on F-16s. They update them, so I'm sure that is like a concern to some degree, right? The enemy intercepting our technology and studying it, or like, I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but I'm just not, I don't know enough about F-16 fighter jets to, evaluate how much we need to safeguard the technology that we use to make them and all that stuff. I just don't know enough about
It's got to
it.
be only Americans touching it, looking at it, smelling it, feeling it, any of it. Only America.
F-16 don't want anyone else to be able to produce cheaper F-16s without going through them.
Are you kidding me? You think the Russians are going to find a downed F-16 technology that was developed half a century ago? That's not a joke. 76. That's half a century ago. And then the Russians are going to develop a supply line to produce that fighter jet and undercut American military corporations? Is that okay? All right. What the fuck? What the fuck is going on? What the fuck is going on right now at TYT? What's happening?
i.e. the defense contractors.
You know what? That is
Was there a gas leak in the studio?
the most important part of the story, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, God forbid that these defense contractors, these military these military grade weaponry manufacturers have some competition. I mean, that's the real.
You really think that some Russian company is going to stumble across the ruins of a F-16 that's been downed and then just develop a superior production process for that specific line? And then, let me get this correct. You think that America would buy the Russian company produced F-16s rather than defense industries in America produced F-16s?
I don't think that's quite what they're arguing.
Worried, like Raytheon or whatever is worried that Russia will produce a cheaper F-16 and that we would buy those F-16s, the outdated fighter jets, from an enemy country.
No, that's not.
This is insane. I can't. This is like breaking points here. Holy shit. What is going on?
Anybody that opposes the war, it just makes me want to pull my hair out, man. I just hate peace activists. I'm the only based real lefty that likes guns and violence, man.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Obviously, there's a lot of people that have ridiculous takes on the war in Russia, Ukraine, but I do hate the way how Vaush refuses to engage with these arguments in a good faith way, coming from people that otherwise agree with him on a lot, progressives in general who don't agree to the same extent that he does with U.S. aid towards Ukraine in a military sense. It's not Russian propaganda. It's not pro-Russia to say that America doesn't need to be involved in this conflict. Saying America shouldn't be involved in this conflict and saying that America shouldn't be funneling billions of dollars of weapons into this conflict has nothing to do with whether or not you're pro-Ukrainian or pro-Russian. Clearly, Cenk and Anna, given the totality of their commentary on this matter, are not pro-Russian. They've made tons of videos going after Putin. They've made tons of videos talking about what a hero Zelensky is and how brave the Ukrainians are. Clearly, they're not doing Russian propaganda here, just like how Zac and I never do Russian propaganda. We never praise Putin. We never praise the Kremlin. We never defend Putin's war. We never try to justify the Russian invasion of Ukraine or make excuses for it at all. Of course not. But that analysis is, pretty much entirely detached from the analysis that is America should not be sending weapons into the crisis. America should not be escalating with Russia because we don't have the moral high ground to do so. We're already funding and facilitating a bunch of humanitarian crises around the world, again, that we're funding and facilitating. There's a lot better stuff for us to be doing than trying to play the world police and engage in this proxy war with Russia. It's just, completely escalatory. It's bringing us to the brink of World War III. Diplomacy should be pursued instead of military means, and that's what we should be facilitating.